In the endless darkness of space, there are stars scattered everywhere, shining like distant lanterns in an infinite night. Each one burns with its own energy, following the natural laws of the universe, predictable, steady, and understood. At least, most of them do. But then, there's this one star. At first, it looks completely ordinary, just another point of light among billions. Nothing about it seems unusual, at least not to the naked eye. Yet, when astronomers began to study it more closely, they found something deeply unsettling. Behind this star, strange shadows began to appear. They weren't small, quick flickers like the ones we see when a planet passes in front of a star. No, these shadows were huge, moving in ways that didn't match anything science could explain. Sometimes they stayed for a long time. Other times they disappeared suddenly, as if something enormous was drifting past and then hiding again. At first, scientists thought it might be a simple error, a glitch in their equipment or interference from somewhere else in space. But after running test after test, the same mysterious patterns kept showing up. This wasn't a mistake. Something was definitely there. The strangest part? Whatever was creating these shadows wasn't just blocking the star's light, it was changing it. The light from the star would dim and brighten in ways that didn't match the movement of planets, asteroids, or clouds of dust. It was as if something intelligent, or at least something completely unknown, was moving in the darkness, just out of sight. And that's when the real mystery began, a mystery so strange, it could change everything we think we know about the universe. Introducing the star. The star at the center of this mystery has an official name, one that sounds more like a catalog number than something you'd find in a storybook. To astronomers, it's just another entry in a long list of stars scattered across our galaxy. It sits thousands of light years away, far beyond anything we could ever reach with our current technology. Even at the speed of light, it would take centuries to get there. When scientists first recorded it, nothing seemed unusual. Its glow was steady, its position fixed, and its color, a warm, golden hue, suggested it was a mature, stable star. In other words, the kind of star that behaves exactly as expected. For decades, it stayed that way, quietly burning in the background while telescopes searched for far more dramatic cosmic events. But there's something almost unsettling about how normal it appears. You see, in astronomy, true mysteries often hide in plain sight. The most incredible discoveries sometimes start with an object that looks completely ordinary, until you notice the smallest detail that doesn't fit. And with this star, that detail came in the form of its light, not in how bright it was, or even its color, but in the way it seemed to flicker. These flickers weren't visible to the human eye, but sensitive instruments picked them up, faint dips and rises in brightness that made scientists stop and look twice. At first, these changes seemed random, but over time, they became impossible to ignore. It was as if something, or many somethings, were moving around it, crossing paths with its light, and leaving behind a cosmic signature no one had seen before. This was no longer just another star in the galaxy. It had become a puzzle, one that astronomers were determined to solve, no matter how far the truth might take them. The first signs of something strange. The first real signs that something was wrong came quietly, almost by accident. Astronomers were studying the star as part of a broader survey, using powerful telescopes to record its light over long periods of time. Most stars produce smooth, predictable light curves, steady patterns of brightness that only change when something passes in front of them, like a planet orbiting its sun. But this star's light curve didn't match anything in the textbooks. Instead of the clean, sharp dips that a planet would cause, the brightness dropped in odd, uneven ways. Sometimes the dimming lasted just a few hours. Other times, it stretched over several days. And stranger still, the timing was all over the place. A planet's orbit would follow a strict schedule, but here, there was no schedule at all. The first thought was that something small, like space dust or debris, might be drifting between us and the star. But that theory fell apart quickly. Space dust usually creates a gentle, hazy dimming. This was different. The changes in brightness were sharp, sudden, and unpredictable. It wasn't just the shape of the light curve that was strange, but the depth of the dips. At times, the star lost as much as 20% of its light, far too much for a planet to block, even one much larger than Jupiter. Whatever was passing in front of the star wasn't just big, it was enormous. Astronomers double-checked their instruments, thinking perhaps the readings were caused by a technical glitch. But every test came back clean. Multiple telescopes, in different locations, recorded the same thing. This wasn't a trick of the light. Something truly massive was crossing paths with this star's glow, and it was unlike anything science had ever documented before. The data that shocked scientists. When the first strange readings appeared, scientists were cautious. Space is full of oddities, and most of them have ordinary explanations. But as they gathered more data, caution turned into astonishment. Using some of the most advanced telescopes available, astronomers began capturing higher-resolution measurements of the star's light. That's when they saw it. Not just a faint flicker or a random dip, but the signature of something truly vast moving in the darkness. The light curve revealed a pattern so large it couldn't possibly be caused by a single planet. This was no small, compact object. It stretched across an enormous distance, blocking huge portions of the star's light at irregular intervals. Even more puzzling, the way the light was blocked didn't match any natural shape. Planets cause smooth, rounded dips as they pass in front of a star. But here, the dimming looked jagged, uneven, almost as if the shadow came from something made up of multiple connected pieces or something with an irregular, unnatural outline. What's more, the object didn't seem to follow a predictable path. Sometimes it appeared to drift slower than expected, other times faster. It was as if it were changing speed, a behavior no planet or asteroid could naturally sustain. Some astronomers began whispering about the possibility of a massive ring system, bigger than anything in our solar system. Others wondered if it might be a swarm of objects moving together, a loose formation, drifting as one. But privately, a few dared to suggest something even more radical. What if it was artificial? That single question changed everything. The mystery had gone from a curious observation to a potentially history-making discovery. And the next set of readings would make the speculation even wilder. Theories begin to emerge. With the unusual data now confirmed by multiple observatories, scientists were left with one pressing question. What could possibly be hiding behind this star? At first, the safest explanation was put forward. Perhaps it was just a cloud of cosmic dust. Space is full of drifting clouds, remnants of ancient stars that block and scatter light. But almost immediately, this theory began to crumble. Dust clouds usually emit a faint warmth in infrared light as they absorb and release energy from nearby stars. Yet in this case, there was nothing. No glow, no heat, just cold, silent darkness. Another idea was that the star was surrounded by a swarm of asteroids, similar to the asteroid belts in our own solar system, but on a far larger scale. These rocks could, in theory, create irregular shadows as they moved in a loose, shifting pattern. But even this didn't match the data. The shadows were too large, too deep, and sometimes lasted far longer than a passing asteroid should allow. Then came the most controversial suggestion of all, the possibility of a Dyson sphere, or at least a partial one. A Dyson sphere is a hypothetical megastructure, imagined by scientists, built to capture a star's energy. If such a thing existed, it would have to be the work of a highly advanced civilization, far beyond our own capabilities. The irregular light patterns, the enormous size, the cold, unnatural presence, all of it could, at least in theory, fit this idea. Most scientists dismissed the notion as science fiction. After all, there was no concrete proof, just light patterns and shadows. But others argued that we shouldn't be so quick to rule it out. If humanity is searching for signs of extraterrestrial life, this might be exactly the kind of strange, unexplained evidence we should be paying attention to. And just as the debate reached its peak, new observations came in, observations that made the mystery even stranger and much harder to explain away. A twist in the investigation. Just when scientists thought they were narrowing down the possibilities, the universe threw them a curveball. New observations came in, this time using powerful infrared telescopes capable of detecting heat that the human eye could never see. If the strange object behind the star was dust, rock, or gas, it should have been giving off some kind of warmth. After all, anything that absorbs light eventually releases energy. But the data told a different story. The mysterious object was colder than expected. Far colder. In fact, it was reflecting some of the star's light, but giving off almost no heat at all. This was unusual, almost unnatural. Even dense asteroid fields tend to retain some warmth, and dust clouds glow faintly in infrared scans. But here, there was only darkness, a cold, silent shadow. This revelation made many of the earlier theories collapse. A dust cloud? Unlikely. A swarm of asteroids? Even less possible. Whatever this was, it seemed designed, or at least arranged, to reflect light while hiding its own heat signature. That alone was enough to make some astronomers feel uneasy. A few scientists began whispering about advanced materials, surfaces that could perfectly reflect light without absorbing heat, the kind of thing you might expect from a technology far beyond our own. Others still clung to natural explanations, suggesting perhaps some unknown type of space ice or a never-before-seen cosmic phenomenon. But the truth was, no one knew. The star was keeping it secret, and the shadows behind it were growing more mysterious with every passing year. And soon, scientists would discover just how difficult and frustrating it would be to get closer to an answer. The frustrating search for answers. As the mystery deepened, astronomers around the world coordinated their efforts to learn more. Telescopes in different countries, even in orbit around Earth, were pointed toward the star. The goal was simple: capture clearer, sharper data, maybe even an image of whatever was casting those strange shadows. But the star wasn't going to give up its secrets easily. For one thing, its position in the sky meant it could only be observed for a short window each year. And when that window came, the timing had to be perfect, too early or too late, and the object might be out of view entirely. Even when the conditions were right, something seemed to work against the scientists. Some nights brought unexpected interference from cosmic rays or passing satellites. Other times, weather on Earth ruined the chance for observation. And in the rare moments when data was collected, the mysterious object always seemed to be in a position that revealed just enough to keep people guessing, but never enough to solve the puzzle. Years passed, and the story of the star became a mix of excitement and frustration. Every new piece of information seemed to create more questions than answers. It was like chasing a shadow through the dark. No matter how fast you moved, it stayed just out of reach. Still, the mystery refused to fade. In fact, it began to take on a life of its own, attracting not just professional astronomers, but also curious minds from around the world. And as speculation grew wilder, one theory would emerge that was stranger than almost anything scientists had considered before. Could it be alive? As the data piled up and the usual explanations failed, some scientists began to think far outside the boundaries of traditional astronomy. If the object wasn't behaving like dust, rock, or gas, could it be something entirely different? A small but vocal group of researchers proposed a theory that sounded more like science fiction than science. What if the object was alive? Not in the way we think of life on Earth, with plants and animals, but something on a scale so vast and alien that it defied our imagination. A living structure. A biological megastructure drifting through space, perhaps feeding off starlight or using the star's energy in ways we couldn't yet understand. Others took the idea in a more technological direction. Maybe it wasn't alive, but built, a massive artificial habitat, perhaps housing a civilization far older and more advanced than our own. In that case, the strange dimming patterns could be the result of enormous panels, ships, or structures moving into different positions. Most mainstream scientists avoided these theories, knowing how wild they sounded without hard proof. But the truth was, the observations did fit some aspects of these ideas. The irregular timing, the unusual shape, the lack of heat, all were consistent with something designed to control light. And if something was designed, then someone, or something, had to have built it. Of course, until there's concrete evidence, these ideas remain speculation. But in the vast, empty reaches of space, where no one truly knows what might be out there, even the strangest possibilities can't be completely ruled out. And just when astronomers thought the story couldn't get any stranger, the mystery took an unexpected turn. The ongoing mystery. Years after the first strange readings, the star continues to defy explanation. Every time scientists believe they're close to an answer, new data sends them back to the beginning. The most recent observations were perhaps the most puzzling of all. In the latest measurements, the massive shadow that once lingered behind the star seemed to have shifted entirely. It wasn't where astronomers expected it to be. In fact, it was moving, and not in a way that matched any natural orbit. It appeared to be drifting independently, as though it had changed course on its own. This discovery left experts stunned. If the object wasn't locked into a regular path, then it wasn't bound by gravity alone. Something else was influencing its movement, or it was moving under its own power. Both possibilities were deeply unsettling. The star itself still shines as it always has, steady and bright, but the space around it remains unpredictable. Sometimes the strange dimming vanishes for months, only to return without warning. Other times, it changes completely, as if a new shadow has entered the scene. Astronomers are now waiting for the next generation of telescopes, instruments so powerful they might finally pierce the darkness and reveal what's really there. Until then, the mystery hangs over the scientific community like an unanswered question. One thing is certain: whatever is hiding behind this star is not ready to be explained. And that may mean the truth is far stranger than anything we've imagined so far. Closing hook, what do you think? And so, the question remains, what is hiding behind this star? Is it a natural phenomenon we simply haven't seen before? A vast cloud of material shaped in ways our current science can't yet explain? Or is it something built with purpose, something that hints at the presence of intelligence far beyond Earth? Right now, no one can say for sure. The evidence we have is fascinating, frustrating, and incomplete, a puzzle with most of its pieces still missing. And maybe that's what makes it so compelling. This isn't just a story about a distant star. It's a reminder of how little we truly know about the universe. Every new telescope, every fresh scan could bring the answer. Or it could reveal something even stranger, something that forces us to rewrite what we thought we knew about space, life, and our place among the stars. So what do you think? Is this just a cosmic coincidence or a sign that we are not alone? Share your theory in the comments, because one day the truth will come out, and when it does, it might just change everything.